Good afternoon, dear teachers and the students. My name is Nakipekova Gulzazira Berdebekuna. I am an English teacher at NIS of Physics and Maths in Almaty. And today we will start the Unit 11 4D, Persuasion and Lies. It focuses language with content. And the topic of the lesson is language of persuasion. The learning objectives for today's lesson, here we have for content, they are to develop and sustain a consistent argument when speaking and writing. The next content learning objective, it is to use imagination to express thoughts, ideas, experience and feelings. Then we have two learning objectives for listening. They are to recognize the attitude or opinion of the speakers in unsupported extended talk on a wide range of general and curricular topics, including unfamiliar topics. Also, we have one more listening objective, that is to understand the main points in unsupported extended talk on a wide range of general and curricular topics, including unfamiliar topics. The last learning objective, it is for speaking. To interact with peers, to make hypotheses and evaluate alternative proposals on a wide range of general and curricular topics, including, again, unfamiliar topics. Based on these learning objectives, we have lesson objectives. Today, mostly we will work on your listening skills and speaking skills. So you will practice your listening skills for recognizing the attitude or opinion of speakers through the recording, about 8 people. With this recording, you will also practice your listening skills for understanding the main points in unsupported extended talk. Then you will raise awareness of using the useful expressions of persuasion effectively in formal and informal speeches. The last one is you will develop your oral fluency by persuading each other using consistent argument and expressing your thoughts, ideas, experience, and the feelings. Now let's start our lesson. Persuade. Usually when people persuade each other, they do different actions. Now I would like you to brainstorm any actions which we do when we persuade the others. So when you can do this task in your small groups. When you finish the task, you can mingle in the class and see what the other groups have. Now let's see the suggested answers. You might have these kind of verbs for this task. When we persuade the others, usually we affect them, we convince them, or we give them advice. Sometimes we encourage them to make them say yes, or we impress or emphasize on something. We demand, which might lead to conflict, and we can assert them or motivate. These are the kind of actions when we do by persuading. Now, to share your experience in persuasion, I'd like you to work with your partner and discuss these questions. They are: recall any situation when you had to persuade someone to do something. How did you persuade them and how easy was it? Then, when is it particularly difficult to persuade someone to do something? And what techniques can be used to persuade people to do things that they are reluctant to do? Again, work with a partner. Then some students can share with their experience in a whole class. And when you have finished this task, let's see what might the other students have for the last 2 questions. If we talk about the difficulties in persuading someone, we might have this kind of situations. People might have different views or opinions, or they can demand, and as I said before, it may lead to conflicts, which might be kind of unsuccessful situation. Then asserting without giving any new evidence. Again, it might be kind of, the person might be unsuccessful there. If we talk about the techniques that can be used to persuade people, they might be like that. emotional responses, powerful words, giving gifts, respecting a person's opinion. So these are our opinion. Now, to enlarge our knowledge about this persuasion, let's see, you will see the video which is about the science of persuasion. While watching the video, I'd like you to take notes of the most important or main principles of persuasion. So now let's watch the video.
Researchers have been studying the factors that influence us to say yes to the requests of others for over 60 years, and there can be no doubt that there's a science to how we are persuaded, and a lot of this science is surprising. When making a decision, it would be nice to think that people consider all the available information in order to guide their thinking, but the reality is very often different. In the increasingly overloaded lives we lead, more than ever, we need shortcuts or rules of thumb to guide our decision-making. My own research has identified just 6 of these shortcuts as universals that guide human behavior. They are reciprocity, scarcity, authority, consistency, liking, and consensus. Understanding these shortcuts and employing them in an ethical manner can significantly increase the chances that someone will be persuaded by your request. Let's take a closer look at each in turn.
So, the first universal principle of influence is reciprocity. Simply put, people are obliged to give back to others the form of behavior, gift, or service that they have received first. If a friend invites you to their party, there's an obligation for you to invite them to a future party you are hosting. If a colleague does you a favor, then you owe that colleague a favor. And in the context of a social obligation, people are more likely to say yes to those that they owe.
The second universal principle of persuasion is scarcity. Simply put, people want more of those things they can have less of. When British Airways announced in 2003 that they would no longer be operating the twice-daily London-New York Concorde flight because it had become uneconomical to run, sales the very next day took off. Notice that nothing had changed about the Concorde itself. It certainly didn't fly any faster, the service didn't suddenly get better, and the airfare didn't drop. It had simply become a scarce resource, and as a result, people wanted it more. So when it comes to effectively persuading others using the scarcity principle, the science is clear.
Third principle of influence is the principle of authority, the idea that people follow the lead of credible, knowledgeable experts. Physiotherapists, for example, are able to persuade more of their patients to comply with recommended exercise programs if they display their medical diplomas on the walls of their consulting rooms. People are more likely to give change for a parking meter to a complete stranger if that requester wears a uniform rather than casual clothes. What the science is telling us is that it's important to signal to others what makes you a credible, knowledgeable authority before you make your influence attempt.
Next principle is consistency. People like to be consistent with the things they have previously said or done. Consistency is activated by looking for and asking for small initial commitments that can be made. In one famous set of studies, researchers found, rather unsurprisingly, that very few people would be willing to erect an unsightly wooden board on their front lawn to support a Drive Safely campaign in their neighborhood. However, in a similar neighborhood close by, 4 times as many homeowners indicated that they would be willing to erect this unsightly billboard. Why? Because 10 days previously, they had agreed to place a small postcard in the front window of their home that signaled their support for a Drive Safely campaign. That small card was the initial commitment that led to a 400% increase in a much bigger but still consistent change.
The principle is the principle of liking. People prefer to say yes to those that they like. But what causes one person to like another? Persuasion science tells us that there are three important factors. We like people who are similar to us, we like people who pay us compliments, and we like people who cooperate with us towards mutual goals.
The final principle is consensus. Especially when they are uncertain, people will look to the actions and behaviors of others to determine their own. The science is telling us that rather than relying on our own ability to persuade others, we can point to what many others are already doing, especially many similar others.
So there we have it, 6 scientifically validated principles of persuasion that provide for small, practical, often costless changes that can lead to big differences in your ability to influence and persuade others in an entirely ethical way. They are the secrets from the science of persuasion.
If you take any notes, I'd like you to first compare with your partner, then look at the screen. Here you have the same things. Now let's check. The first main principle, which is scientifically proved, reciprocity, which means obligation to give when you receive. The other principle, that is consistency or commitment. It means looking for and asking for small commitments that can be made. Then we have liking. People are more likely to say yes to someone that they like. And the next one is social proof or consensus. It means people will look at actions of others to determine their own. The next one is authority. People will follow credible and knowledgeable experts. The last one is scarcity. It means people want more of the things they can have less of. So learning how to utilize these techniques can help you to become better negotiator, and if you use them in an ethical way, you can get whatever you want easily. So now the next task is, I'd like you to work on new words and phrases that might help you in the listening activity. So here you have words and phrases. They are reassure, sympathy, praise, bargain, moral blackmail, commuting time, flatter, and versatile. And then you have also their definitions. But the definitions are incorrect place. So the task is you have to match them with their definitions. So again, do it first individually, then compare with your partner or in small groups. When you finish, let's check. Reassure, that is a verb, and it means to say or do something that makes somebody less frightened or worried. Sympathy, that is noun, and it means the feeling of being sorry for somebody, showing that you understand and care about somebody's problems. Praise, here it is verb, and it means to express your approval or admiration for somebody and something. Bargain, a thing bought for less than usual price. Then we have moral blackmail. It means the act of putting pressure on a person or a group to do something they do not want to do. For example, by making threats or by making them feel guilty. The commuting time, it means time spent on traveling regularly by bus and train and car between our work and home. Then flatter, that is verb, and it means to say nice things about somebody, often in a way that is not sincere, because we want them to do something for you, for us, or want to please them. The last one is adjective, versatile, and it means having many different uses. Now you will do the listening activity, which is your formative assessment task. For that, you have the success criteria. And in this task, we are going to assess the learning objective 11L5 to recognize the attitude or opinion of the speaker in an unsupported extended talk on a wide range of general and curricular topics, including talk on a growing range of unfamiliar topics. You will meet this learning objective if you are able to give correct information for 6 or more of the speakers. Now let's look at the task. So you're going to listen to 8 situations. In each situation you have a speaker who persuades someone. And the task is here, you have a table, and you will fill the first column of the table with the information what speaker wants others to do. And the second column, in the second column you have to write how speaker tries to persuade them. So complete this table with as much information as you can. Now you will listen to the recording only once. Now let's listen to the recording.
Track 13, Unit 19, Language of Persuasion. Exercise 2. 1.
Now look, fish fingers and peas and carrots and broccoli. Oh, you like broccoli, don't you? Let me just put that on the fork. There, you have that. Go on, open your mouth. That's a good boy. You chew. That's it. And now, a carrot. There you go. In it goes. You take that carrot. That's a good boy. Can I have some? Can Mummy have some? Oh, that's lovely. Thank you. Now you have some. Go on. You have that spoon. One for you, one for me. Good boy.
2.
Excuse me, have you got a moment? I wanted to ask you something, if I'm not disturbing you. The thing is, I'm owed a couple of days' holiday, and I'd like to use them before the end of the year, if possible. I appreciate it's quite a busy time for the department, but I'd really like to take next Thursday and Friday off. My brother's here, and I'd like to spend a bit of time with him. We hardly ever manage to meet. Anyway, I'll make sure everything's on track before I leave, and I'll brief the PA so that she can deal with anything. But I don't expect there to be any problems, and you can always contact me. I'll have my phone with me.
3.
Now, I think you all know why we've had to meet today. I've got the monthly figures back from head office, and for the 3rd month running, sales are down, and, well, we all know that things are getting tighter. It looks like I'll have to ask you to put in a little bit more overtime. No, I know that's not going to be very popular, but this is a good chance to make a bit more money. Okay? I mean, this is probably just a temporary measure, but thanks for your understanding and all your hard work. Really appreciate it.
4.
Sorry, no. I don't want that. I don't want the red one. I actually just want to borrow the blue one. I wouldn't ask unless it was for this party. I mean, I just think he's going to be there, and I'd just like to look nice. And that dress is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Look, I won't spill anything on it, I promise. And I won't even drink anything all night. I won't eat anything either. There'll be no crumbs, nothing, I promise. Look, I'll wash up for a month. I'll do all your washing. Oh, please let me.
5.
Good morning. I wonder if I could just take a few seconds of your time just to tell you about a special offer we're doing at the moment. We're in your area and we're doing free quotations on brand new kitchen units. Now, these units are made to measure. They're marvellous. They're handmade by our craftsmen. Therefore, it's very much cheaper getting them directly from our workshop than going to the shops. And also, you don't have to pay at all for anything this year. So basically, we'll install the kitchen for you, and you don't have to pay anything till next year. Now that's a fantastic offer. I'm sure you'll agree.
6.
All the others are going to be there and there's no school the next day. Do you remember you said that if I started doing better in maths, you'd let me stay out? Well, I got good marks, didn't I? And I'll get a taxi home and I'll pay for it. So I'm not asking you to pick me up. Just this time, it's important. Everyone is going to be there.
7.
The thing is, I know it would be a bit more expensive to live there, and it's further away from work, but well, I mean, there are so many good sides to it. We'd be closer to my mother, so she could help more looking after the kids. It's greener, everything's less stressful. You could go into work by train. You could work on the train. That'd be okay, wouldn't it? You like trains. That'd mean you could spend more time with the kids in the evening. What do you think?
8.
Yeah, the mirror's right over here, yeah. Oh, it really looks lovely, yeah. Oh, it's gorgeous on you though. You've got such a lovely figure. What size is that one? Oh, it's a size 10. Yeah, well, there you are, you see. I can only get into size 12. You are lucky. Well, I'll tell you what though, that dress really looks nice because the way it's cut over your hips, you see, if you just turn round there, oh, look in the mirror. It's ever so nice. And the colour's good on you as well because, like, green really goes with red hair. Yeah. Oh, I think it's really nice. It's quite good because you can use that dress for all sorts of things, couldn't you? You could go to parties in it and wear it out anywhere, really.
So that's the end of listening. Now let's check your answers here, suggested answers. So for the first situation, we have a mother who wants toddler to eat his vegetables, and she encourages, plays games, eats some too, and praises. In the next situation, we have an employee who would like to take some time off, and he reassures the employer that everything will be on track before leaving and that they will always be contactable. And in the next situation, there is a boss who wants workers to do some overtime. He explains why it is necessary and shows sympathy with how workers must be feeling. Then in the fourth situation, we have a girl who wants her friend to lend her a special dress to wear to a party. She explains why she wants it so much, praises the dress, promises to do various favors in return, promises to be careful. Then we have a salesperson who is trying to sell a fitted kitchen. He uses very positive language about the offer, emphasizes what a bargain it is, says it will be very easy. In the sixth situation, we have a teenager who wants to persuade her mom to let her stay out. As she reminds mom that there is no school next day, uses moral blackmail, tries to reassure mom, says all friends are going to be there, and reminds mom how good she's been. In the seventh situation, we have a wife who wants to persuade her husband that they should move. She emphasizes benefits to children, says her husband could use commuting time productively and so he would be freer and when at home. In the last situation, we have a sales assistant who wants to persuade a woman to buy a dress. She flatters for that, goes into details about why the dress is good and points out how versatile it is. So as this, while listening these situations, you notice that there are different situations when we persuade, and that these situations are depend on people's relationship. If persuasion between friends and family members, usually our speech is informal. If it is between boss and the employee or colleagues, our speech is usually formal. So that's why we should be very good at choosing appropriate, useful expressions of language for persuading in each situation. Because language of persuasion is very sensitive, and in order to be successful in that situation, we should know those expressions. For that, here you have some useful expressions, and in this case, that is formal speech. In order to soften our persuasion, our language, or be more polite, usually we use modal verbs and questions and adverbs. And There are a lot of expressions to be added into this set, but here I'm giving you some of them. For example, how can I persuade you to? Can't I persuade you to? Couldn't you be persuaded to? I think you might regret it later if you didn't. I really think it would be a pity if you didn't. For questions and adverbs, but really the best course of action would be to. Possibly the most sensible things would be to, but surely it is in our own interests to. Are you quite sure you won't reconsider? Do you think you've taken everything into account? So these expressions are useful phrases for formal speech. If we talk about informal or neutral speech, usually we use short sentences like imperatives or questions. Or sometimes we can give advice. When we give the advice, it usually sounds like neutral. So let's have some of them. Come on, go on, please, don't be like that, go for it, please let me, it won't hurt, it won't take long, it won't cost much, do it for my sake, why don't you, won't you, you're not going to let me down, are you? If advice, for giving advice, I really think you should, you'd be well advised too. So these expressions might be very useful for you in your speech. So to practice them in our speech, we will do the next task. Here you have 5 statements. Could you possibly find me to check through this report for me, please? Come on, don't be stubborn. I'd be really grateful if you could lend me some money until Monday. I was wondering if you would mind coming with me this afternoon. Go on, don't be scared, it will be okay. The task is you should decide which statements are more formal here. So have some time, and when you finish, compare with your partner or with your classmates your answers, and let's see here what we have. So more formal statements here. The first one, could you possibly find time to check through this report for me, please? And the third one, I'd really grateful if you would lend me some money until Monday. And the fourth one, I was wondering if you would mind coming with me this afternoon. The next task is here for you. Make formal statements informal and the informal ones formal. You can use some useful expressions which were mentioned before. Now let's see some suggested answers. For the first one, as we mentioned, that is formal. If we use this expression in informal speech, it might sound like that. Have you got time to check through this report? The next one, come on, don't be so stubborn. This is informal. If we turn it into formal speech, that is, I'd rather you were more flexible. The next one is as many useful expressions as you can, for persuading of course. Then also give feedback on your classmates' speech using the peer assessment form. And here, peer assessment form. In your speaking, in your assessment, you should take into consideration these points: interaction and effective usage of persuasion techniques, effective usage of the useful expressions, grammatical range and accuracy, fluency and the pronunciation. Also, you have here kind of criteria. Try harder, you can do it. So it is mostly comments. Good, but you can do even better. Good and excellent. You need just to tick which is appropriate for the speech of your classmates. Now let's talk about the situations. For the first situation, here we have student A, you are company manager. There is a conference next week in an industrial city 300 kilometers away. It will last for 5 days. It's extremely important that someone from the office goes. Unfortunately, you are busy because there is a deadline. Student B, a junior employee, is the only other person knowledgeable about the conference. Student B, your junior company employee, asks student A, your boss, if you can have some time off next week. It's your wedding anniversary and you'd like to take your partner away for a romantic break. You've been working so hard recently that you haven't had much time together. For the next situation, student A, you are a parent. There is going to be a party to celebrate your mother's 100th birthday next Friday. You'd like everything in the house to be as nice as possible, but you are busy. Ask student B, your teenage son or daughter, to clean everything and also to cut his or her hair to look smart. You've bought new clothes for him and for her. Student B, you're a teenager. Ask student A, your mom or dad, if you can borrow some money. There is an important party next Friday and everyone will be there. You would also like to color your hair because you are bored with the style you have. So, to do this task, here you have a sample video where the other students do the same task, exactly the second situation, and they give the feedback on their speech. So let's see this video first, then you can do the task.
Sinjan has something to study.
What is it?
There is a conference next week and you are one of the best employees, so I think that you should go there.
There is a problem.
What kind of problem?
Actually, I come here to ask your permission to have some time off next week because I have wedding anniversary, which is really important for me in my relationship with my wife. So, but really the best course of action would be to ask someone else, don't you think?
But I'm quite sure that you won't regret about your decision later because the conference is very important. There will be very influential people and it's a big step in your career. It's a great experience for your future.
Do you think you have taken everything into account? What about my wife? What would she say?
I think yes, and I think that your wife will understand you. I think that she will be happy for you because, like I said, the conference is a big step in your future career. So you should go there.
Can you help me?
Of course, I can say about this conference to your wife.
So you can explain everything to me.
Yes.
Okay, I will. I think that this presentation, this conversation was very good. They used useful expressions and the speech was very grammatically correct and the speech fluency was perfect. I think it was a very good dialogue.
Well, I think their interaction was very good. They asked questions and answered them. Also, fluency and pronunciation was on top. In addition, they used some useful expressions. So, finally, the speech was good.
So I hope this video will be useful for you to do the task. And now it's time to give a home assignment. So at home you're going to choose one of the following topics. They are intelligence. Intelligence depends more on environment than genetic factors. The importance of newspapers in our daily life. Effective ways to improve your time management. Advances in medicine are not necessarily good for us. The importance of higher education. When you have chosen one of them, you have to prepare a persuasive speech on that topic using the techniques of persuasion and the useful phrases in a proper way. It depends on your speech if it is formal or informal. So that is your home task. Now, if we go back to the lesson objectives today, so let's check if we covered all of them. So for the first, have you practiced your listening skills for recognizing the attitude or opinion of the speakers? Have you practiced for your listening skills for understanding the main points in an unsupported extended talk through the listening to those 8 people? Have you raised your awareness of using the useful expressions of persuasion in informal and formal speeches? And the last one is, have you developed your oral fluency by persuading each other? I think the answer is positive. So at the end, I think that we should kind of give feedback on the lesson. For that, you have here an exit ticket, and it has 3 points. 3 things you have learned from this lesson, 2 things you still want to know, and 1 question you still have. I'd like you to fill this exit card, and here you have the reference, the list of resource materials which were used for this lesson. And this is the end of the lesson. Thank you for your attention. Bye bye.